Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're doing a page which is all about journaling your emotions and clearing your head through art journaling. And just a word of warning that one of the stencils I use may offend some people, but it's it totally summed up how I was feeling on the day, and it was I needed to use that that stencil, so just take it with a grain of salt. The reason I art journal, as many of you know, is to clear my head, to give me some me time, to get my creativity going, but it's also to keep me sort of balanced. I find that when I art journal, it relaxes me, it lets me switch off, but for days I'm having really bad days, it also helps me really identify how I'm actually feeling, because a lot of the time I'm so overwhelmed I can't process it. So in days like that, which is what this day was, I just needed to write and get it all out of my system and work out what was going on and work out what was really bothering me. So I got some deli paper or some tissue paper, something that you can write on, and I chose, usually I would write straight into my journal, but I knew that what I was writing this day was probably going to be a lot emotionally, and I didn't want to have it there, even though I'm writing in really scribbly writing, I didn't want to have it there that I could go back and read, because I just wanted it out of my system. I didn't want to go back and look at it again, so I wanted to write it on something that I could just tear up and, you know, pull into pieces and be destructive with, because I just wanted to get rid of those feelings. So it's a really cathartic way to journal and to channel your emotion, I suppose. I certainly find it cathartic, and I know some other people I've talked to find the same. One of the things I did choose though when I was doing this was the pens I chose to write with are permanent pens. So because I knew I was going to be gluing these down, I knew I was going to be painting over the top of it, so I did want something that I knew wasn't going to smear and make a big black mess on my page, but that it was going to be enough, that it was going to be fine enough that it could just look like texture in the background. So basically all I'm doing is journaling out my feelings to use as collage paper in the background. And you know, you could obviously do this with really happy emotions, you could do this with any sorts of emotions that you wanted to. This is a stencil I was warning you about, so please, you know, take it with a grain of salt. I'm actually stenciling it on backwards because while this is definitely how I was feeling at the time and I needed to get it out of my system, I thought by putting it in the background on the back of where my journaling was, that would dull it down a little bit. And again, you could choose whatever paint you wanted to. You don't have to do this at all. You could put any stencil over the top, but it was cathartic using this one. So sometimes you just need to do it. For those people who are interested in where the stencil's from, it's from an Australian company called Flutterby Designs, who sell most beautiful word stencils as well. But Anita is a person after my own heart, and she has got some unusual stencils that do sum up what you're feeling when you've been really frustrated for a long time as well. So if you are the person who likes to journal like me, you may find some of those handy to be in your arsenal. So once I'd sort of stenciled this all out, I left that to dry, and then I'm going to go onto my page and do my work. So I'm working on my Use It Up journal, and this is just a page I've had sitting around. I just want to use up the rest of my paint. So just going into a page that I had, this one was, I finally used up one of my paints, and I had to cut into the paint bottle, so that's why I've actually just got one colour on this page. You can see me tearing up that scrapbook paper, deliberately overlapping it, making sure it doesn't belong to each other, so you just cannot read that journal. Even if you could read it, if it was readable, by the time I've stenciled over it, torn it up into pieces, glued it in different places, whatever you've written is not going to make sense anymore. So it's just a really, really handy technique if you want to get your journaling down on a page, but have it there but not have it there, if you know what I mean. So I've had lots of questions about sort of art journaling or writing on your pages in the past on my channel. So I just wanted to share this journal page with you to show what I do with pages like this. They're not my usual pages, but it's important for you to know that it's not all just pretty colours and fun sometimes. Sometimes there is a deeper meaning behind pages, and this is sort of one of them. So you can see me again hiding that even further by putting more stenciling on the top. This is my opportunity now to sort of build up over the top of things and just really make it as it sort of matched what I was feeling at the time, because it is chaotic. You know, the page you can see is chaotic. And one of the things I find about my art journaling is, and I'm sure that some people now probably have been following my channel for a little while can possibly pick this up now too, but I can look at pages and know exactly how I was feeling depending on what colours I'm using, what imagery I'm using. You know, am I going to my favourite go-to happy stencils, or am I doing something that's just chaotic and crazy like this? And yeah, I can look at this page. Obviously I sort of know what was behind it, but I think even if I was, you know, in a few years time when I've forgotten what I've written here, I could go back to that page and go, yeah, that probably wasn't a great day, or you had a lot in your chest that day. So it's a good way to sort of work out what's happening in your head. So now I've kind of completely obliterated what I've written in the background. I used the Finnabair liquid acrylics over the top in the turquoise, and obviously going through onto the yellow page, you can see that's turned to almost a greeny colour because it is so transparent. And I'm going in and drawing a figure. This is sort of a figure based on the Sarah Trump, who's an American artist who does these sort of weird and wonderful little creatures that have got a lot of emotion in them, and they're really simple to draw, but for me anyway, they just yeah, for something that's so simple to draw, it has a lot of not meaning, not emotion. I can't even think of the correct word to sort of describe what I'm talking about, but you can sort of read their faces, I suppose. You know what's going on in their heads. So I'm just mixing some greens and some reds, again sort of echoing the colours from the background. The paints I'm using are Paper Artsy paints. They're really matte paint. They're a chalk fresco finish. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to use some colour pencil over the background. So I wanted something that had some tooth. Now I'm just going in and sort of painting in a body, just using some black gesso because I knew I wanted to write on the body as well at some stage, or do some journaling on that as well. So I'm just going in and painting that, and you can see how matte that is, how opaque, sorry, that is. And again, it's sort of going over all that stuff I've written in the background, but once that's down, I don't need to read it anymore. I'm going in and painting these eyes that are sort of very large, very off-center, kind of Picasso-ish features. So just making everything look a little bit odd, a little bit strange, because again, that sort of seemed to fit with the page that I was creating at the time. So this is a white paint from Paper Artsy as well. And funnily enough, a lot of their paints are actually quite translucent. Some of them are. They do say very clearly on the paints if they're translucent, semi-opaque, opaque, and the white is actually really, really opaque. So it's great for doing those highlights and doing the whites of eyes. With a little bit of paint that I had left over, you can see I just darkened up the edges just to add a little bit more depth to the page. And now I'm just going in with some of the greens and reds and a black pencil just to add the shading into the page. So I'm starting off with the darkest colour pencil, so that dark green, and then I'm sort of blending it in with the lighter green across the page. And really important when you're doing this to make sure your paint is completely dry. Obviously, because that's going to help, and it's not going to chip anything off. So just going in either side of the nose as well and adding some shading, and then adding in the lighter green colour, so the chartreuse colour. And now on the other side, because obviously I've got that redder colour, I'm going in with the dark red and then blending that across using some lighter colours as well. So it makes a change from my faces where I'm usually using, when I'm doing not realistic faces, but I suppose more realistic faces, I tend to use purples a lot to shade with, but it's actually fun using some different colours. One of the other things that's really noticeable about the Sarah Trump artwork is she has quite long, thin lips on her images, which makes them look a little bit unusual, but sort of balances off the page as well and balances the eyes. So just going in and fixing those. And now I'm going in and drawing the eyes. So I'm just sort of drawing the top lid and adding some shading. So that sort of just defines where the top of the eye is. And you can see a little bit of my paint sort of chipping away there. That's because it was quite lumpy on the page, and just going over with the colour pencil sort of moved it out of the way. So you can always go back and refill that in afterwards, or just leave it. It sort of just adds to the page. So now I'm going in and colouring my eyes. I'm using some purples and blues, starting off with a dark colour and then coming down into the lighter colour. And then just adding a little bit of turquoise in there and a little bit of yellow as well, just to balance it out. Then going around the edge with a black pencil and just adding some lines in, and then I'm going to go in with my white pen and add the catch lights. And you can see by adding the catch lights to the eyes, it suddenly makes them look more realistic. And I really like that contrast of this really unusual, crazy face and then kind of realistic eyes on top of it. So it is very quirky, it is very strange, but as I said, it really fits with how I was feeling on this day when I was creating this page. It fits with the journaling that was in the background. It just, in my head, works, and it describes my day, and that's all it needs to do, because in the long run, while I love presenting these videos to you guys and sharing my artwork with you guys, one thing that I'm really careful about doing is I create all the artwork I create for me. It would be very easy to get into the habit of creating artwork that you guys like and that you like to see me create, but then I wouldn't be true to myself. And I don't think that's fair on you either, because I'd be creating stuff I wasn't passionate about, and I'd be creating it not for the right reasons. So while I know some artwork you guys absolutely love and some might make you feel uncomfortable, and I can understand that, I need to create art for me. So yeah, that sort of explains where you're going. So, because I have had some questions in the past of, you create a wide range of stuff. Why is it all the same, or not all the same? And that's the reason why, because some days I'm feeling one way and some days I'm feeling another. So that's how I sort of end up in the end. So this page says, be careful how much you tolerate. You are teaching them how to treat you. Which really summed up, basically, much more politer than I wrote it in the background, how I was feeling about what was going on in my life. So I hope that this has helped those people who are wondering about journaling and how to journal on the page, particularly if it's tricky stuff. This is one way I do it. You've seen me in other videos, if it's stuff I'm happy to share, I write it that you can read it. But this is how I journal the really sort of heavy emotional stuff. So I hope that's helped you, and until next time, bye for now.